I'm glad to hear that Layla, your students really appreciated the interface and that you were talking about intimacy in the space. I just put up a sample for my students and called it Joline's erotic idea. And it was for a full department, full-scale orgy of Halloween. And I'm waiting to see what the feedback and responses might be for this form of collaborative intimacy. So I'll get back to you on that. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. John's talk was about academic collaboration. I'm going to talk about co-creation as generative collaboration, meaning this kind of collaboration generates life. And now my understanding of these practices comes from one of the most profound and challenging collaborations I participated in, besides with Jon, of course, as a co-parent. Anyway, this collaboration is with Wabanaki elders Mi'kmaq and Kizitanamuk. They are partners in the Long Greenhouse Project, which Jon may show you. So, how do we compare co-creation to Western art-making models? Well, the globalized market for artistic commodities requires that they be detached economically from their authors and from their origin. Now, by contrast, the production of Malangampa in Papua New Guinea follows a logic of ownership that entangles rather than detaches. So how does this work? Well, to produce a new design, an artist must purchase an already existing design at a public showing. The artist then holds the design element in memory until some compelling experience triggers some kind of revision, a significant revision of the original. So then the owner of the element has to find a carver or a weaver to realize it, since nobody materializes their own images by themselves. In the end, this new image, which is both original and derivative at the same time, emerges as a collaboration among a number of sources. So you have the original owner, the new owner, the fabricator, and then ultimately the owner in the next generation who will similarly modify it when it comes up for so-called purchase once again. Now, this kind of multiple ownership creates a legal nightmare for IP law, as you can imagine. But among the craftspeople in Papua New Guinea, it produces a dense network of relationships, of kinship. This malangan is a distributed object. It produces identities across time and across space. This means that creativity is not really just in the object itself, but in the technologies of distribution. These technologies of distribution create genealogies similar to those we just talked about in the pool. What Malangan does is it unites the synchronous collaboration of image holder and maker. It also unites the asynchronous collaboration of past, present, and future. Ownership in these conditions connects people rather than separating them, and they're critical to the preservation of the social conditions of creativity itself. So to summarize, no kinship, no creation. So what does this mean for local economies? Well, in tribal life, art is not separated from craft. It permeates all of life. The value of art, then, can't be precipitated into an art object that can be sold or placed in a museum. The value lies in the entire activity of production and distribution. So let's take another example. To make a basket, a Passamaquoddy woman prays and makes offering for the sweet grass that she takes. When she moistens the grass with her lips, she also gives her life breath. And these sacred dimensions create relationships that link her to the place and time of gathering, to the grasses, and to the person with whom she will give the basket, So, in making the basket, she generates kinship bonds that weave the natural and cultural world together. For her, nature isn't a resource to exploit for creative or commercial uses, but it's a set of material relationships that sustains her sacred and material life. This is ritual, not entertainment. It can't be traded, it can't be sold, it has to be shared, given, distributed, transacted locally. So another example is the local practices, ritual practices, in Papua New Guinea, where members purchase the tunes, words, and carvings of the Tambaran spirit. For them, in transacting this sort of Tamarack spirit, this allows them to produce food, it allows them to produce music, spirits, and thus, because of all this, children. So this is a form of creation that is their genesis. No, this is not God's creation, this is co-creation. This is how they produce life, how they interact with all of life around them. So I'm going to briefly show two examples of digital co-creation. The first is from the open software movement. How are trust webs or trust metrics created there so that this kind of generative creativity can occur? Well, you can see John has that online. This is basically a mapping of the Linux users group. It was created with pretty good privacy PGP software where the members get together and swap codes that allow them to identify each other. This happens face-to-face. And if you look at this ceremony, this face-to-face identity matching trust-making ceremony, it looks very much like the ritual ceremony held by the majority to greet newcomers and bring them into their trust circles, a ritual called the Pofity ceremony. Finally, I'm going to show a project called RFC, Request for Ceremony. This is one of my projects that I just started recently. It's a call for individuals to reconnect to the land around them by inventing ceremonies that accompany their moments from their daily lives. So this is local, quotidian, and connecting. And if John brings up one example, you can see a ceremony in which there's a number of different ones, but you can see a ceremony devised for grade school kids for healing pruned trees. This was a collaboration between university students and young elementary students. And you can see the different parts of the ceremony on the website, and if you're interested, we can talk about that more. So I just want to emphasize in closing that in these models of both indigenous and digital creation, all of them entail trust, kinship, and responsibility, and all of them are ways of generating and working with living forces, social and ecological. Thanks.